Hello, everyone. Remember me? Happy Memorial Day 2023. It is the 29th of May, and I am here right by myself for the moment, but hopefully Matt, our publisher, will be logging in. He will be my co-host for today's episode. Carly is, of course, off exploring the world, and I'm sure I will get to finally catch up with her next week. It has been way too long. If you are a faithful viewer, you know that I have not been here for a little while. Been a very, very exciting few weeks. I'm going to stall a little bit here while we wait for Matt to log in, and hopefully he'll be in just a few minutes. But while we wait, you get to hear me talk a little bit about the Orlando International Fringe Festival. In addition to my work with Attractions Magazine and the unofficial guides on theme parks, I'm also a big fan of live theater and the Orlando International Fringe Theater Festival, which is the largest and oldest uh, theater festival of its kind in the United States of America, 32 years strong. Matt's going to be in just a minute. It is wrapping up today, right now. Today is the Patrons Pick Day, where you get encore encore performances of all of the top productions, best-selling productions. I participate in the Critics' Choice Awards with Matt Palm from the Orlando Sentinel. That is going to be officially announced later today. But if you are in the Orlando area and you are listening to this right now, you still have an opportunity to head down to Lock Haven Park or the Art Space on Church Street and see some great theater from around the planet. Yes, Fringe knows, Farron knows what I'm talking about. Support the Fringe. Does a lot of great work. A lot of people got their start there. Attractions Magazine sponsored several shows from Jeff Jones, the Animatronicans, which were truly special shows. And I saw some great stuff this year. A lot of stuff always Disney or theme park related. Quite a few shows this year that were. And while I just wait for Matt to finish logging in, let's just check in with some of our regulars who I have not gotten to see in quite a while, who are in the comments. Vince, in before everyone, wishing everyone a happy Memorial Day. You are definitely going to get to listen to me describe what I experienced in the last week around the world, and I know Matt has some great stories to tell too. Michael Bingham, always great to hear from you. Good seeing you again. And yes, thank you, Michael, for reminding us. The reason for Memorial Day is not to have a day off or to have sales at the mall. Thank you to all that served, made the ultimate sacrifice, and of course, their families and loved ones. Checking in from Derek's Corner, Blossom and Michelangelo today. And yes, it is Memorial Day, so thank you for joining us. All right, we got to talk about jet lag. I could probably do a whole hour on recovering from jet lag from the UAE. I did not have any opportunity whatsoever to recover from jet lag. I flew home on a 15-hour flight. Came home, took a shower, didn't even unpack, went straight back to the Fringe and saw 4 shows that day. I will say that taking the 777 Dreamliner that's got the circadian rhythm lighting, and they do a thing where you leave the UAE at 3 in the morning, and they about an hour and a half after you take off, they feed you a big dinner. They let you sleep for a few hours, and they wake you up in the middle of the night and make you eat a pizza. This is Emirates that I was flying direct. And then finally, a few hours before you land back in Orlando, they wake you up and shove an omelet down your throat. And the combination of the controlled lighting and the food that they make you eat somehow gets your body clock snapped back on time. So I will say I've probably experienced worse jet lag coming home from California to Orlando than I did from the UAE. But there is a 50-50 chance that I might completely just pass out in the middle of this recording. So if you hear my head hit the keyboard, please just be quiet and let me sleep. I need it. I did go to bed at around 4:30 a.m. Because, like I said, Fringe. And there was a late show that started at 12:35. Shout out to Your Mom's in My Top 8, great pop punk show. Yeah, so I didn't get to sleep till about 4:30, and it is now 12:05, and Matt's really going to be joining me any second. Ah, there we go. All right, Matt is just settling in, and here we go in 3, 2, 1. Hi, Matt.
Hello, sorry about that.
The irony, for those of you who are watching this on the live stream, you don't get this little behind the scenes sneak peek like the folks who just listen to the audio.
Yeah, they'll never know.
You'll never know that last night at about 4:30 a.m. I texted Matt and said, "I'm just now going to sleep. I'm gonna be right the last minute today. Can you make sure you log in and you can host the show and I'll just play along. I'll be there.
Sorry.
Don't count on me for much." And he's like, "Oh, no, no problem," because you've been up since 5:30. You probably woke up an hour after I went to sleep.
I don't have no excuses.
All right. Well, we're just checking in, saying hi to some folks real quick. Antonella, hola. Welcome from Argentina. Thank you for watching. Our good friend John Self saying hi. Maria B, hello. Brian Sager, yes, I will talk about. I wish Theron was logged in with us today because he is the evangelist for smells at UAE and the airport. Like he's well documented them. Yes, thank you from Derek's Corner. We are so happy to be here. I am happy to pause in talking for just a moment. And then I think let's do this thing, right? Okay.
We'll do it.
You
I don't
about
know how
ready,
good it
Rat?
would be, but we'll do it.
Are you good?
I'm good.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2.
Please lower your head and watch your step while boarding.
Welcome to the Attractions Podcast. You are all clear for dispatch. Have fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 193 of the Attractions Podcast, sponsored by MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. I'm Seth.
And I'm Matt.
And we are here to talk to you about the latest and greatest in theme park news and more, as well as what is going on in our own lives. Matt, it is great to see you, at least virtually, face to face, because it's been a bit. It's been a minute.
Yeah, you've been across the world, and
boy, are my arms tired.
And I've got no excuse for running away. You've been up all night as well.
But you've also been traveling, and we won't dive too deeply into our respective travels because we are just about to talk to them because they are big news.
Yeah.
But other than the headlines that we're going to be talking, have you been? How's Jackie been?
Everybody's doing well. We've been having fun and working hard and mixing the two as always, and everything's good.
That's awesome. Yeah. In addition to my travels for the magazine, I have been busy with the Fringe Festival, as I mentioned in the pre-show. If you happen to be listening to this live, jump in a car, go on down to Lock Haven Park. It's your last day now, Monday, the Memorial Day. A lot of great shows still left to see. And if not, make plans to see it next year. Okay, so I think that without further ado, since we have so much stuff to do, we should just jump straight into the news in the queue. All right, for our first piece of news in the queue, this is one that we have Matt here who's going to be able to talk about. DarKoaster, the indoor straddle coaster, is now open at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. And of course, Matt was one of the lucky members of the press to get to be there for the grand opening, to experience it, one of the first riders. So just jump right in. Tell us all about what is DarKoaster all about.
DarKoaster. It's a retheme of an old ride that was kind of the same mechanism as the Spider-Man ride at Universal, called Curse of Dark Castle. So they shut that down a few years ago for unknown reasons, and decided they put some haunted hollow scream houses in this space. It looked much as it does in the photo, just a big castle looking building. And I think they did it for something, used it for some kind of holiday event, but they decided to add a new ride to it. Actually, their 10th roller coaster.
That blows my mind, because we think of like kind of SeaWorld and Busch Gardens as in Orlando or in Central Florida as being kind of the roller coaster parks here in Central Florida. But SeaWorld in Orlando and Busch Gardens in Florida together, I think, are fewer coasters than just Busch Gardens Williamsburg alone. You don't think of that as a mega coaster park, but it's like coming up, it's almost in that Cedar Fair, Kings Island kind of range. Sheer coaster count.
Yep. And this one adds something that they didn't have before, which is an indoor coaster.
Yes.
So it all takes place in that building, in that castle. The storyline is a little convoluted. You're doing an exposition. How do you say it? You're exploring
exploration.
Yeah,
expedition
of the castle, because it's sat empty for years, and it's winter time at the castle. So you get on these snowmobiles,
right?
So you could also, similar to the SeaWorld's jet ski ride.
Right.
You get on the snowmobile straddle coaster is what they call it.
Does the seating feel similar to Hagrid's at a Universal?
It's similar to that than it is to Tron.
Okay. You're not lying on your stomach.
Right. You're pretty much sitting up, but your arms are outstretched holding on to the handles. If you want to hold on to the handlebars, you don't even have to. But it's nice for them because their parks open year round, not every day year round, but in the winter time they can still run.
Chilly there. It gets chilly there, and having ridden the Loch Ness Monster in the winter, I can testify that the outdoor coasters can be a bit rough. So this would be a great alternative. Yeah, I can remember when they first installed it, and it was a big deal for a regional park, a Busch park, to get something that was almost as good as Spider-Man. But they just couldn't afford to maintain it. It's one thing to build a ride like that. It's another thing to keep it riding, in good condition. So it's great to see they didn't just tear it down, but they repurposed it. They kind of reused. And I will give a hint that some of the theming you'll see in the queue worked on by some of the very same people who from Orlando, who built things like Galaxy's Edge. I can
recognize the picture of the count or the king in the pre-show.
Oh yeah. And more importantly, who cares about the ride? There's a beer. And Brian in the chat wants to know, how is the exclusive beer? Well, I know you're not a huge beer drinker, but did you get any feedback from people on?
I didn't really. I tried it myself, but like I said, I don't like beer specifically, so I didn't care for it.
I'm a Guinness man, and this looks like a very dark, malty beer, so I think I would probably like that.
But the ride itself is all indoors. They call it a family coaster, but much like the Mummy, it has scary visuals inside. So things pop out at you, and
so we've had a bunch of new indoor dark coasters in the business lately. We got Tron. How do you think this ranks for you? Obviously it's not on the scale of a Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. It has 4 launches, but fun fact, they talk about how long the track is and on the 4 launches, but you're actually going around the track twice.
It's clever.
But they do it well because you see different visuals pop up each time you go through, so you don't even realize you're going through twice.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
It is cool. They did it well. So there's actually 2 launches, but you go on each launch twice. So 4 launches in the ride. and it's pretty thrilling. It's pretty thrilling. I really enjoyed it, and Jackie, my wife, went as well. She liked it as well. So
That's great. Obviously, you can never experience a roller coaster through the internet the same as being there, but we have the next best thing. We got rider cams, we've got POVs, we've got interviews, all found on our YouTube channel. I watched all the POVs, and yeah, obviously, I kind of dark roller coaster is not great in POVs, but you do get a sense that it seems a bit faster than I thought, or maybe it's the lighting effects in the indoors makes it feel faster than it is.
The launches are pretty
Yeah,
fast. So.
yeah, it looks like it's got a little intensity. This is a good tween coaster. It's like your kids gotten a little too big for the kiddie coasters. They're maybe not quite ready for the big super looping stuff. So yeah, this is a good step up. And in addition to that, we've also got Riptide Race at Water Country. That is new dueling racing water slides that will open now that on the 29th, which is today, is the first day of daily operations for Water Country USA, which is their water park.
Yeah, and that ride is also at Aquatica here in Orlando. So if you've done it there, it's a lot of fun.
They're very good about cloning their slides. They get a good value for their design money. If you want to experience any of these attractions or events, Busch Gardens has some very reasonable annual pass prices. They got some great free benefits. So head on over to buschgardens.com for that information. And like I said, lots of great videos currently up on our YouTube channel. So find out all about it there.
And not to be confused, they call their annual pass memberships.
Memberships,
so you're joining the club.
But it's not Club 33.
No.
It's a lot cheaper.
Expensive.
Exactly. Next up, we have some new details have been revealed about Disneyland's Pixar Place Hotel, and they did this just because they know that my book about Disneyland for 2024 is due to the printer any day, and I'm supposed to be doing the final proofreading. So of course they give us brand new details that I have to fit in a book. Sorry, do I sound bitter? Not at all. Not at all.
It happens every year.
Every year. So in case you're not aware, there is a third hotel. There are 3 hotels on site at Disneyland. Everyone talks about the classic Disneyland hotel, or they talk about the Grand Californian, which kind of sits as part of the theme park. The third hotel, which has changed names several times over the year, doesn't get a lot of love. It wasn't built by Disney. It doesn't really feel like a Disney hotel. If you're used to the Disney on-site experience at Disney World, not quite the same thing, but they're finally trying to bring it a little more into the fold. So Paradise Pier Hotel is officially Pixar Place Hotel. This is the first fully Pixar-themed hotel in the United States. They have one outside of their Asian parks. And bless you.
Thank you.
This is being completed over the next few months. I had the distinct pleasure of staying there while they were mid-transformation, and it was like staying in a construction zone. But the new hotel is going to have it's already got a colorful look on the outside with bold primary colors in geometric shapes that if you were the artist Mondrian, you thought was really cool. And if you were Salvador Dali, you think that this looks like a boring and pretentious pile. And in addition to the exterior, the new lobby space also has Pixar imagery with the Pixar lamp balancing atop a ball in the lobby, right about where the Goofy statue used to be. New changes are also going to include a new splash pad. They've redone the water slide. I watched them working on that. It's a great spot to watch the fireworks. And finally, there will actually be a place to eat. For a long time, there has been no restaurant, but they are going to get a chain restaurant. It is called the Great Maple Restaurant, and they specialize in chicken and waffles.
Yeah, I've never stayed at this hotel under any of its names. I've walked around the lobby a little bit, and I last time I was there, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago, and I thought it was a restaurant in the lobby.
There was for many years. There was a buffet kind of restaurant where you could have dining with Donald, and then it became with Stitch, and it closed during the pandemic, and they reopened the hotel at full price, but they never reopened the restaurant.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of emblematic of, yes, you people are going to pay through the nose because we're calling it a Disney hotel, but we're not even giving you a place to eat. And it honestly, you know, I am able to stay there on DVC points, and if it was not for that, I don't think I would ever have considered staying there. The only good thing about it is the cheapest of the 3 on-site Disney hotels, and it has a private entrance directly into Pixar, the Paradise Gardens area of DCA. That's the only reason, but I'm gonna be there. I'm definitely gonna stay there once this renovation is complete. It definitely looks like it's gonna give it a lot more color, a lot more character. And hopefully this restaurant, I've heard great things about it, and hopefully the chain lives up to the other locations. So.
Yeah, I think some of this is done already. I saw some people posting some photos and people complaining about it, but then with the side note that it's not completely done. So,
well, hey, we're Disney fans. We do not have to have something be complete before we can complain about it. Darn it! All right, so this is all kind of wrapping up. Sometime by the end of this year. I'm honestly, I'm much more excited to stay in the new DVC at Disneyland Hotel than I am to go back and stay at this. But you know, it's an option, and like I said, if you are in DVC points, this is the cheapest place to spend them on Disneyland property. But really, before you stay in one of these, look into, there's great inexpensive hotels right across the street from Disneyland that you can walk that are closer than this hotel is. So next up, heading back to Orlando, Pipeline, the surf coaster, is now open. I know you and I both got a chance to ride it during previews. It officially opened to the public, grand opening ceremony on May 27th. They had a beachfront ribbon cutting ceremony that we have a video of. And I also heard, I know some folks who are involved in a new little show that they have added to that area. I don't know if it's on the schedule, but if you are hanging out in that area this summer, you might see some new entertainment.
You might be. Are you thinking of the new show that they put into Nautilus Theater, because it is?
Well, there is
themed.
There is one. I think there is one there, and I also think there might be some walk around entertainment, like circus stilt walkers and
I saw some stilt walkers at the grand opening.
Yes, but well, first of all, we both got a chance to ride this. Have you been back since that preview that we?
I went back for one of the pass holder days, and I got.
So how'd that go? You gave it another shot.
Yeah, I think I got 3 rides on it that day, and it was much better after I learned to keep my feet down.
Once you learn how to ride this ride,
it
can be a really fun ride.
Yeah, I liked it a
lot.
But
if you just go and you just think, oh, I'm just going to relax, I don't have to put any work into this, you're going to pay the price, huh?
Yeah. I've heard people hurting their knees, and then I hurt.
Oh, the knees are the least.
In my body.
Yeah, the knees are not the part of the anatomy that most men are worried about.
If you're not sitting down, but there is a little piece that goes under your buttocks and around areas. And so if your legs are in the air and you get air time and you come down, you'll come down hard on that piece.
Oh, you will come down so hard.
But if you remember to keep your feet down, you will get air time. You will be thrown into the air. Just
no matter what you do, you are getting air time on that attraction.
Yeah.
But yes, don't lock your knees. Kind of flex your knees. Keep yourself bouncy. Try to kind of land on your toes and use them as shock absorbers. Don't land hard on your heels. I really think that the pre-show should be interactive, where they have a surfing lesson that everyone has to do before you board.
There you go.
Well, like I said, we've got video of the grand opening. We've got you were able to take, I think you've got a POV, a reverse POV. You've even got a tiny planet on there. Those always make my brain hurt. You know, even if you have doubts about riding a stand-up roller coaster, you got to support the fact that they support Florida conservation. that the Fish and Wildlife Foundation and SeaWorld are partners. They are also, just so you know, before you head out there with the kids, minimum height requirement 54 inches, and if you happen to be a basketball player, maximum height 78 inches. If you are over 6'5", this is a no-go. It was close call for Theron. He's almost
Yeah.
up there.
And we don't mean to scare you away from riding it, because it's a really fun ride.
It is a totally unique sensation. There is no other coaster I've been on that gives that kind of floating ejector airtime without anything feeling like it's holding you down.
And I will
But
say,
what comes up must come down.
Yeah. And then the other issue is, if you're really tall, those restraints can dig into your collarbone.
Comfort collars. I think comfort collars were named by the same people who named military intelligence and jumbo shrimp. They're not that comfy.
Yeah. So, but don't be scared. Give it a try.
If you are a coaster junkie, this is definitely an extreme, new, unique form of thrill that you got to try once. You got to do it once.
Yep.
All right. Next up, in other SeaWorld news, every SeaWorld in the United States has new experiences this summer. That's including Orlando, which we've just talked about. San Diego and San Antonio also have new entertainment and new coasters. We talked about the surf coaster, the Pipeline. We've also got fireworks going on. You mentioned that they've got a new beach show in the Nautilus Theater. And over in San Diego, they have their new straddle coaster, very similar, as we talked about, to the DarKoaster, but this one is outdoors, and it's the West Coast's longest and fastest straddle coaster. The opening date is soon.
It's like next week, I think. I think it's the first. It might be.
Okay,
this week.
Good. Good. I'm glad that's been updated since we posted this article. And that the interesting thing about that is that has been integrated into what was their Wild Arctic exhibit, and Orlando also has a Wild Arctic exhibit that could use some help.
Which already has construction around it, and this is rumored,
very strongly rumored,
Orlando. So
absolutely, San Diego's also got Rescue Junior, which is a new area with some kiddie flat rides. I do not believe we talk about the submarine ride that used to be around this area.
I think part of that rescue area used to be the Sesame Street area, which they moved over to their Sesame Place.
Right. It looks like we've got kind of a Dumbo spinner, we've got a rocking boat, and we've got a teacup ride, all with some theming that well, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But that opened on May 27th. They've also got a new fireworks show that is running Fridays and Saturdays now through June 17th, and then nightly through August 20th. New stunt show, parade, lots of entertainment, lots of stuff, even fire dancers going on through. Yeah, mermaids, you name it, all going on in San Diego. And finally, last but not least, SeaWorld San Antonio has a new flume coaster and a black light puppet show. But do they have Spinal Tap? Spinal Tap goes above the puppet show. All right, that's a deep cut for those of you.
I don't know that, but that's...
All right, so SeaWorld San Antonio is opening Catapult Falls. That is happening any day now, I believe. The world's first launched flume coaster. Summertime opening date, as of when we published this, had not yet been announced, but it is going to have a 53-degree drop at 37 miles per hour, which is pretty intense. If you look at this concept art, I mean, I don't know if that's as big as that. What was that ride? Pilgrim's Plunge that was at Holiday World. But that looks pretty intense. And if that's a little too much for you, why don't you just go into the Sea Star Theater and chill out with Imagination? This looks a bit like the old Little Mermaid blacklight puppet show that some folks miss. But what makes this special? This is directed by John Tartaglia. He was on Sesame Street. He was original cast of Avenue Q. He was in Fraggle Rock. John's the real deal. And so if he's put together a puppet show, it is going to be truly, Muppet quality.
Yeah, it looks cool.
So yeah, they've also, speaking of Muppets, they also have Sesame Street there, and they've got the party parade that kicked off on the 27th, and they've also got a new water ski spectacle running that kicking off on June 2nd. All the parks have special Memorial Day sales. Right now, you can get up to 50% off of tickets. So head to SeaWorld.com and check out the information for the park nearest you.
And the San Antonio Park already has the straddle coaster that San Diego just got. So.
Yes, so you get a straddle coaster, and you get a straddle coaster, and you get a straddle coaster.
Yep.
I don't know if that'll come to the Orlando park, because honestly, people are going to compare it to Hagrid's next door. And if they do it in Wild Arctic, I hope they really plus it up.
Yeah.
Heading back out to the West Coast, Knott's Berry Farm has reopened their reimagined Fiesta Village area, but it's still missing one thing for right now. It does have beautiful decor, authentic Mexican-inspired food and entertainment, and it's got some thrilling flat rides. If you're hungry, Casa California offers build-your-own burrito bowls and guacamole. I hope that Chipotle doesn't come and sue them. There's a new Baja Taqueria with fish tacos. There's a cantina if you want some colorful drinks, food booths, merchandise, you name it, and mariachi music. And my favorite, the Bob Baker Marionettes. These guys were a big influence on Jim Henson.
Nice.
Walt Disney was friends with them. They are a classic part of Southern California culture. The only thing that's missing right now is Montezuma's Revenge. I'm not sure if we even mentioned that in the... Yes, we mentioned it in the... So I think that we might have jumped the gun here a little in the article. Montezuma's Revenge was supposed to be open. It is, it is now open at a later date.
Later date, not this year.
This is a classic shuttle coaster. It's kind of a boomerang model, but inside a highly themed building. It was aging. It has, hardware that is older than most of the people who are listening to this podcast. So apparently when it reopens, it's supposed to have some randomized elements with different lighting and sound and different launch options.
Nice.
Hopefully that will still happen. But while you're waiting for that to reopen, there are tons of other attractions, lots of other great coasters at Knott's Berry Farm. And you can also enjoy the return this summer of Ghost Town Alive, which is, if you never got a chance to experience the Legends of Frontierland that they ran briefly at Disneyland, which eventually became a lot of elements of Galactic Star Cruiser, rest in peace. Then Ghost Town Alive at Knott's Berry Farm is the next best thing. It is like a live action role playing inside the theme park, and it's really, really cool. So check all of that out at knotts.com. Brian just chirping in the comments. He sadly missed the opportunity, was out there for the Fiesta Village, but he got to see Boysenberry Fest, and I gotta tell you, Knott's does those food festivals right. You better like Boysenberry though, because Boysenberry's in everything.
Yep.
All right, and for our last piece of news in the queue, Nickelodeon hotels and resorts, believe it or not, are coming back to Orlando. This was not something I had on my bingo card. For years, we had the Nickelodeon hotel with the time capsule and the rides and the characters and the slime gusher, and it all went away. But now it's coming back at Everest Place, which is a development really, really close to Walt Disney World. There's going to be shopping, there's going to be dining, and multiple hotels, including a brand new Nickelodeon hotel and resort.
Yeah, this it's over off 192, kind of close to Margaritaville, and with anything that's this far out from being built, things could change. We hope the Nickelodeon hotel comes like as planned.
Mhm.
That's the plan right now, and they have cleared land, so that's a good sign.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and you can see this is very ambitious. This is a huge development. I mean, they got a massive lake. It's not just for tourists because it's going to have condominiums, hotel rooms. It's going to have rental apartments, which is something we really need in this area. Especially, hopefully, these will be affordable rental apartments. Um, and most importantly, it's going to have a really quick access. You get the 429 right there. It's kind of like in the back door of you can see it's right behind Animal Kingdom.
yeah,
So this is a lot. Most of the hotels and things. iDrive. It's all kind of on the east and to the northeast of Disney, where most people stay, and this is where you get a huge amount of traffic. Just trying to get down this little stretch of I-4 right here is brutal.
yeah.
If you stay on the west side of Disney, as long as you're north of Champions Gate, you're not around that Champions Gate area, this is almost an ideal place if you just want to be able to zip straight into the parks and right back out.
Yeah, and 192 does get backed up sometimes in the
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
That's the only.
That
that's
is
the only
true. But this 429 is like
right.
this here is a godsend to
Yeah.
avoiding traffic. So one of your options, and the multiple hotels are going to be in this area. These photos obviously do not represent what we're necessarily getting. It's other Nickelodeon resorts around the world, but
Right.
they're going to have a slime pool. They're going to have character
got to.
dinings and meet and greets. We don't know the specifics, but we can assume that this is going to be like a whole Nickelodeon themed experience. Not unlike Nickelodeon Riviera Maya, which we've got some great videos of on our YouTube site. If you don't have the kids with you and you want something a little more adult, there's also going to be Misk Orlando, which is Shazaa Hotel brand's luxury hotel, inspired by the opulent Emiratis lifestyle. Emirates,
Which you know
sorry.
about, right?
Just a little. So if you want to experience what it's like being in Dubai, honestly, they cannot recreate the Dubai lifestyle in Orlando humidity. This
Yeah.
this looks beautiful in this photograph, but unless there is a dome sucking the moisture out of the air,
Yeah.
but we will get to that in just a minute.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But Everest Place is a really big project. You can find out more about it at everestplace.com. They've got some videos. Hey, maybe you want to invest in this. Maybe you want to, buy some retail or a
Maybe you want
condo.
to live there.
I'm sure, it really is. It's kind of hard to imagine the scope of how big this is. Maybe our friend Bio will go up in a helicopter and give us a bird's eye view.
Yep.
Excuse me. So that brings us to the end of the news in the queue. We still have a huge main attraction to talk about. But before we get to that, it is time for us to hear a quick word from our sponsor.
The Attractions Podcast is brought to you by MEI and MEI-Travel. Whether your next vacation is a magical trip to the theme parks, an exciting adventure to the pyramids of Egypt, or just a relaxing cruise on the turquoise waters of the Bahamas, MEI-Travel provides premium service and expert advice to help you get the most of your vacation. They are always free of any hidden fees or costs to you. Visit them at MEI-Travel.com.
It's time for the main attraction!
All right. Well, you wanted the best. You got the best. We are going to talk about the single greatest thing I've gotten to do as a journalist for Attractions Magazine. Thank you so much, Matt, for taking the DarKoaster trip and sending Theron and I halfway around the world to the UAE, something that I had always dreamed about doing, did not think was going to happen anytime soon, to attend the grand opening of SeaWorld Abu Dhabi.
We said earlier that all the SeaWorld parks were getting something new. Well, this is a whole new.
There's a whole new SeaWorld park, and this is honestly, if your idea of what SeaWorld is visiting any of the parks that exist in the United States, this is simply on a completely different level. I want to start before we get any deeper. Thank you to Moral for hosting us and having us out there, and their PR firm, Ilya. Great job, everyone on their team. And thank you to basically everyone in that country for being so incredibly friendly, so hospitable. There were 7 or 8 of us journalists that they brought out, and we were not the important people there. The royal family was there. There were CEOs of trillion-dollar companies and people who are very, very, very important in the world were there, and they treated us like we were just as important as them. They showed us the most amazing hospitality. Everyone was so kind, so friendly. And I got to say, even when I was not in the middle of a press group, when I was just walking around and just like any other tourist, everyone I encountered there, it was the kind of, pixie dust customer service, hospitality that we used to get here in Orlando back in the 80s that made Orlando famous. That people were like, everyone is so happy and so friendly. That's what it was like. So thank you so much to SeaWorld and to everyone there for just treating us so well. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we had when you're going over there, of course you hear all the horror stories and oh my gosh, they don't allow this, they don't allow that. You got to watch this, you got to wear long pants and
I think I would really like to talk at the end of this a little bit about what it's like to travel there, and we're doing a series of videos and articles. If this is something that you thought about and never really considered, it is something that you can do. It is not nearly as scary as intimidating, and I'll talk about that a little at the end. But first, let's actually talk about what they have done in this place. We got to attend the grand opening, and we could probably spend an hour just talking about this grand opening ceremony.
Well,
I've been there I've been there for the grand openings of the Wizarding Worlds of Harry Potter on both coasts and other big theme park things. Nothing like this grand opening. It had an Emirati superstar singer Hussein I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. A Scottish recording artist, Red, 120-piece live orchestra on stage. But no, what blew my mind was the drone dolphins. There were giant, life-sized dolphins made out of Mylar balloons that had drones attached to them that were flying a pod of them over our heads.
Wow.
And that was after just the normal drones, because normal drones aren't enough anymore. We can have a fleet. we can get that anytime on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Drones, no big deal. Dolphin drones are the new hotness. So the most over the top opening for a theme park thing, and then we were given 3 days, a press day, a preview day, a grand opening celebration day, and then the official first day for the public. We got to be there all 3 days, got to see everything in the park. We even got to see some stuff that I am still under embargo and still waiting for permission to officially talk about. But we got to be if you've ridden the Simpsons ride, we got to be like Neil Armstrong or Chewbacca and to be the first people to ride this moon thing.
And we won't get into it, but you also got to go to Warner Brothers
oh my God,
Ferrari World.
We could do a whole hour on all of the theme parks that are there. And they are all worthy. As someone who is an Orlando theme park fan, who is very high standards, who is very skeptical about how good a theme park that's indoors could really be. I've been to the Mall of America. They got some nice rides, but I don't know if I really call it theme park because you still feel like you're in the middle of the mall. These genuinely are theme parks. And they generally are themed experiences, and they've got stuff that if you're a fan of Islands of Adventure, Warner Brothers World is like going to an alternate universe, like a what if version of what if IOA, if they had gotten DC and Looney Tunes instead of Marvel and Beetle Bailey. It's craziness, but thank you. Keep redirecting me back to SeaWorld, because
yeah.
so SeaWorld is what happens if SeaWorld does not have to worry about their shareholders or their stock price or making a quarterly profit. If someone walks up to SeaWorld and says, "We love what you do. We know you care about animals." Imagine you had an unlimited amount of money, all the best people in the world. What could you do?
Wow.
And then just do it.
Yeah.
$1.2 billion, and it is all under one roof. All of that money went directly into building the single greatest animal care facility ever on the planet. And I'm saying this as someone who has a very mixed relationship with SeaWorld personally. My dad was a marine biologist, and I grew up every summer going to the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, where they studied the marine life off of Massachusetts, and that that education and that preserving species is really important to me. At the same time, I have very close friends who worked at SeaWorld who were traumatized by blackfish, and who have shared with me stories about things that don't make me happy about what happens, because stuff is happening behind the curtain, and you never know. This is SeaWorld doing, there's always going to be a certain percentage of people who say there is no way whatsoever to have any animal in captivity responsibly, period, end stop. And if you believe that, I'm not going to argue with you. Don't go to SeaWorld. But if you think that there is any way to do it right, it's got to be this way. Because number one, there are no orcas. The only shamus are in stuffed animals and in videos. That's the only whales you're going to see here. They're not trying to stuff an orca into a tank. But the tanks that they do have for the marine mammals, they have like walruses and dolphins. It is so far beyond anything you've seen in America or anywhere else around the world to see dolphins swimming in a tank that is the size of an American football field, where you look from one side to the other and you can barely see the end of it. And knowing that that tank is almost as deep as it is wide, and they can go, and there isn't a separate tank for their show and for where they live, in the sense that if they're in the middle of a show and they get bored, there's nothing ever stopping them from leaving. There's no gates preventing them from going back to their hiding holes or whatever. So they have complete freedom at all times.
And when you say tank, we're not talking about a big
pool. That's the thing. This place, there is no concrete ditches. There are no metal bleachers. Everything in this entire place is designed to look as natural as possible. And it's Theron, he points it out in a video. He did a great interview with Scott Cook, who was the CEO. This is the first theme park we have been in, the two of us, where every single thing you walk in and you see this piece of art and, oh, that's just concept art. It's not really going to look like that in real. No, it looks like that in real life. Every single piece of concept art that you see for this park that you're like, oh, it's not going to be that. It is that. When you go to a place like Wild Arctic, which I think Wild Arctic is one of the best indoor at SeaWorld Orlando, how it's all been sculpted to look like where the animals naturally live. Take that and plus it times 20 for each of these. The best example is the Endless Ocean. Imagine Sea Base Alpha at Epcot's The Seas Pavilion, and basically stack 3 or 4 of those on top of each other, and then stack 3 or 4 of those next to each other.
Wow.
The largest single tank that humankind has ever built on the planet, holding something like over 7 million gallons of water, 60 feet deep. you really hearing me talk about it doesn't do it justice. You
Even
have to watch some
watching
of
the
the
videos don't do it
videos.
justice, I'm sure.
It's really hard to get a sense of the scale when you see
Right.
things like the Oculus, this giant spherical window. This is not just a round window, but it is a half dome that is pushed into the water, so you can lean in and sort of be completely surrounded. And this is many stories tall. This is,
Wow.
uh, this is 20 yards deep if you're European or Canadian. And everywhere you look, it doesn't end. There are no seams where there's like, this is a really well decorated area and this just looks like 1970s stucco, like a large part of SeaWorld Orlando. Every single thing is themed. And it's so imaginative. I gotta say, this starfish, dancing starfish, Sea Star is the breakout hit of this. One of the most bizarre and entertaining walk around characters that I've ever seen. And that kind of creativity and imagination, a lot of really talented people from Orlando who I ran into at the beer tent tonight just came back from doing all this. Some of the same folks. If you have ever seen the Longshoremen at SeaWorld Orlando,
Yeah.
the same folks who are behind them helped. There's a connection. It all ties together. Worked
Right.
on entertainment here at SeaWorld. And we haven't even gotten to the rides. The fact that I can talk this long about a theme park without mentioning any rides shows you how incredible the environments are. But there are 3 theme parks there. If you are a roller coaster junkie, you go there for Ferrari World. If you are a simulator and a dark ride person, you go to Warner Brothers World. SeaWorld is primarily about the animals, and they've said that they don't want the focus to be on thrills, but they've got one of the best roller coasters that I've been on all year. It is called Manta. SeaWorld sure loves that name, Manta, but I tell you a secret. I think this is the best Manta on Earth.
Mm.
It is not as extreme as there's nothing as extreme as the pretzel loop on the flying Manta that we have here in Orlando. That
Right.
crushes my organs into jelly
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time. But this is an Intamin Blitz launch coaster, and the best way of describing Manta in Abu Dhabi is imagine the first half of the Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. Take that and then double it and then double it again. So you've
Wow.
got 3 first halves of Velocicoaster back to back to back with 3 launches, lots of inversion, not lots of inversions, several inversions, but lots of airtime, ejector airtime, stall airtime, hanging airtime, and it all weaves in and out of coral and rock work and a shipwreck.
Wow. And then
You're in the
I see this one, the picture, you're outside, but does it start inside?
Yes, this is the neat part about it. So everything at SeaWorld Abu Dhabi is indoors, thank God, and air conditioned, perfectly temperature controlled. So you walk through a very elaborate indoor queue and you have a beautiful loading station. And as you're pulling out of the loading station, you actually go past part of the aquarium. So you can see fish and animals swimming past you. And then you go into a launch tunnel and the door opens up at the end of the launch tunnel and this blast of light and hot air hits you just as you launch right out of the tunnel, and it seals right up behind you to keep the AC in the building.
Right.
I will say that between this and especially riding Formula Rossa at Ferrari World, which is the world's fastest roller coaster, also a launch coaster that launches out of the building, I now know what a French fry in my air fryer feels like. They give you at Formula Rossa, they give you goggles to wear because otherwise your eyeballs would just turn into raisins. And I highly recommend if you wear glasses, bring a glasses strap or bring like sports goggles or something, because they did not let me wear my glasses, which are like prescription sunglasses. When we did it at midday, it was so bright. I had to ride like this. I could not even open my eyes because they're just streaming tears. We went back again at the end of the day, just as the sun was setting, and it was one of the most beautiful rides I've ever
Oh,
had.
nice.
Head choppers, lots of tight, close calls, and they're not even done yet. There's still landscaping that's going to be done. I believe there's a water feature that's probably being installed. I mean, yes, you are in the desert. But even though the theming was probably only 3/4 of the way done when we rode, it was still one of the best themed coasters outside of a Hagrid's.
And then what other kind of rides did they have?
So they do have several kiddie flat rides. They're Zamperlas. They're kind of models that you've seen at other parks, but they've been plussed. And like you can see here, they've got a little a flyer here that it has a sea turtle theme. They've got a spinning tugboat that's got an octopus theme. They've got a jellyfish drop tower that is interesting. It's one of these kiddie, kind of frog hopper drop towers, but the whole thing spins while it's going up and down. So
nice.
It's a little different than the typical one. And they have a kind of a Zamperla, I don't know if it's called a roller skater, but it's a kiddie roller coaster. It's gentle, it's cute, very slow loading, but they do let you take 2 laps around for one wait in line. So that's nice. The ride that I can neither confirm nor deny that I experienced may or may not be called the Hypersphere. Intamin, I can say that for many years now, Intamin has been showing off a prototype at IAAPA and looking for someone to purchase a prototype at IAAPA that is a spherical simulator, not a dome, not a curved screen, but a 360-degree ball that is screen everywhere, and where the guests sit in seats in a ring around the circumference facing into the dome, and the entire ring is capable of spinning like a gravitron and then also tilting like a madhouse.
Interesting.
Like I said, cannot confirm or deny yet.
They might have something like that eventually.
But wow. Okay. Enough said for right now. Look for more on that in the near future.
We're working on getting an official POV for the roller coaster. They wouldn't allow any cameras on the ride.
Yeah, so they there were some folks who were with us who felt it was better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. We openly wore our GoPros, and each time we're told no GoPro, no GoPro, no GoPro. Apparently I need to invest in some glasses that have little cameras built in.
Oh,
or maybe just have my eyeball removed and get a chip put in.
Yeah, there you go.
I will try that for the next time.
But I think we're working on. Like I say, we hope that they'll give us a official POV.
Yes, hopefully.
Best quality.
But even that we do have off-ride video of that, and we have so many videos. We took terabytes of videos, hours and hours of 4K video. We have what we think is the best tour, because there are just a handful of journalists who were there with the CEO and the lead designer for a detailed walk around every land, and we had him mic'd up for perfect audio. Plus, we had a second camera there to do I don't think you're going to find a better guided tour. So if you want to see what this is about, get on our YouTube channel and just start clicking.
Yeah, and we have each what they call realms. We have a different tour of each one. So.
Absolutely. And we also we have full video that's going to be posting. We got the entire Sea Lion show, which does not have Clyde and Seymour or a mime, but it does strike a really great balance between it's not as silly as the old Sea Lion High shows, but it's not as super educational as the current shows that they have. It's a great mix. The Dolphin show is beautiful. It's got live drumming and beautiful lighting and effects, and all those full shows all going up on our channel as soon as Theron can. He still hasn't caught up from sleep.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure he's
no, and
been just
then
editing nonstop.
yeah,
Uh,
and in the mix, I don't know if you heard in the mix of after he got back home from Abu Dhabi, he had a leak in his house.
I wasn't gonna out him because I know he's very private and he
Yeah,
doesn't like.
wasn't his
But
fault, but
no. But it's send your thoughts and prayers to
yeah,
Theron. He and his family have had a really he's had a rough
yeah.
week.
What a terrible time to get a leak when you leave town. But
Yeah,
anyway,
not good, not good time.
he's already getting back on track. So
So we are going to be having I'm going to be working on some articles about how you can do this yourself. And I will start out with a disclaimer. Yes, we were hosted, we were taken there as press, that they arranged everything. And I am a cisgender white male. That gives me certain privileges in terms of traveling, that if you're a person of color, or if you're a woman, if you're not cisgender, you might not feel the same way as I do, and I'm not dismissing your feelings at all.
right,
But what I will say is that I had a lot of preconceptions, as an American, as a Jewish person, about what it would be like traveling to the Middle East, traveling to an Arab country. And I really felt it was one of the most welcoming, hospitable. I felt comfortable. I felt safe. I felt like I didn't feel lost, even when I wasn't with a group. On a purely practical level, all the signage is in English. Every single person I encountered spoke fluent English, and at least two other languages, because most people in the rest of the world in hospitality do speak at least. We're the only ones who pretty much only speak one language. I was able to use Apple Pay. I never pulled out my wallet. I used my Apple Watch everywhere I went. They also take Google Pay everywhere. Didn't have to worry about exchange rates at all. Um, Uber worked just like it did at home. My AT&T phone, I paid an extra $10 a day for international. Other than that, my speed was fine. I had perfect connectivity. It really was not, other than the fact that the flight took 15 hours to get there.
right.
It was like traveling to Texas or traveling to Arizona. Everything just, in fact, probably better than traveling to Texas or Arizona, because there's public transportation that worked. There is, there are free buses when you're on Yas Island, which is the resort island. It's like being on Disney property in the sense that there's free transportation everywhere. Everyone is tourism oriented. They will help you get around, and you can just feel like you're on vacation.
Wow.
But the difference is that Yas Island is even bigger than Disney World and growing at a massive, massive rate. There's a lot to do there. Whether you are, like I said, into roller coasters or into family rides, into shopping, into dining. People there know how to eat. Some of the greatest restaurants that I've ever been to. And the thing that surprised me more than anything is how inexpensive it is. Uh, if you are not already living in Orlando and have an annual pass to the Orlando theme parks, do the math. I guarantee, even including the airfare, a trip to Abu Dhabi for a week and visiting their theme parks and staying in a 5-star hotel and eating great food will cost you less money than staying at a moderate hotel on site
Wow.
at Disney and waking up at 7 a.m. to try to get Genie Plus and eating quick service dining all day.
Wow.
I'm just to give you kind of a mind-blowing taste. To fly from Orlando direct to Dubai on Emirates airline costs about $1,400, which is a lot of money, but it's about the same. It's very similar if you were going to fly to Japan or if you were going to fly to Disneyland Paris or one of those. It's comparable. But your hotel room, my 5-star W hotel room that include breakfast and dinner, was $130 a day with tax.
Wow.
A 20-minute Uber ride to the parks cost $6. A bottle of water costs less than $1.
Wow.
A sushi lunch costs less than $10. The only thing that is Orlando prices is inside the theme parks themselves. A one-day ticket to one of the parks costs $100. An annual pass to all 3 of their parks is $300. Matt, I got you a hat. This is your trucker hat that
Thank
says SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. That costs $25. So
Nice.
still a little cheaper than in Orlando park prices. The Ferrari World was definitely the most expensive in terms of they wanted like $40 for a hat, but it was like
Wow.
Ferrari hat. So I'm sure if you go somewhere, you can easily pay $100 for something with Ferrari branding on it if you go to one of their dealerships. So definitely very affordable, especially food, and there's lots of free things to do too. I went and visited the Grand Mosque. Theron did as well, which is just a cultural treasure. I've been to the Vatican, and I would say that it was in some ways even more impressive than the Vatican in Rome.
Wow.
And it was completely free to visit, and they were so welcoming to anyone of any religion. And I will say, as as a man, I didn't really have to be concerned about how I was dressing or presenting myself. But even the women who were with us on the trip, women I saw around, you are not forced to wear a veil. No one is forcing anyone to. When people went to the mosque, at the mosque, they did have, no bare arms, no bare legs, wear something over your hair. That's no different than in this country. If you went into church or if you went to a Jewish synagogue, they would ask you to do the exact same thing. But going out in the mall, women wearing shorts, women wearing short sleeves, the only thing we didn't see anyone wearing like tights or like yoga pants.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know if it's just I don't think it's a law. I think it's just a cultural thing that people just don't do that. But people wore jeans and t-shirts and shorts and looked just like they do in any other mall anywhere in the United States. But the difference was all the prices were way cheaper and all of the store employees were way friendlier.
I know when you hear of that area, you often hear about Dubai. You don't hear about Abu Dhabi too much, but I think they were an hour car drive away from
so I did not totally understand the geography before going over there. UAE stands for United Arab Emirates, and they're basically a series of little city states. It's kind of like if Orlando had, was its own state and Tampa was its own state. So I flew into Dubai because that's the only airport where you can go direct from Orlando. And it was an hour and a quarter drive on the smoothest, most perfectly engineered highway that I have ever seen. And as you drive in that hour and a quarter from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, you see building after building that looks like the Disney movie Tomorrowland. They are building the future out there. It is like being in a science fiction movie to see these cranes that are taller than any crane you've ever seen. I grew up around New York City, and it makes New York City look small and dingy.
Wow.
Just the scope of it. You see the Burj Khalifa, which is the world's tallest building, the one that Tom Cruise climbed on in the Mission Impossible movie. But next to it are other buildings that are going up that are not quite that tall, but dwarf anything that we have here.
Wow.
And it keeps going the whole way. They're just nonstop. And an easy hour and a quarter ride. The cars out there, every car that I was in was either a hybrid or an electric. For a country that originally got all their money from oil, they have clearly said, we think oil is going away, and we are putting all our investment in green energy and tourism. Because their plan is that fossil fuels are they recognize that fossil fuels have to end, and they are not just doubling down on pumping more and more, but trying to use the resources they've got to transition to something else, which I think is a great idea.
And for those that don't know, this isn't an official SeaWorld park, but it is owned by a separate company,
It
separate person, and
Mhm.
similar to Tokyo Disneyland.
That's exactly right.
Everybody talks about how amazing it is because they put so much money into it. This is a similar situation.
You know, I mentioned that interview with Scott Cook that Theron did. He asked some really great questions, and one of the things that Scott told us was that this was kind of the first time in his career as CEO of SeaWorld. You think he's very powerful. He can make all sorts of decisions. He's got bosses. He's always had a board of directors. He's always had shareholders to answer to. He said, "This is the first time in my career where I didn't have to justify a budget, and I didn't have to say, why do we have to spend the money on this? They just said, what is the best thing you can imagine? And here's the check, go and do it."
Wow.
And yeah, SeaWorld doesn't operate it or own it. You know, if SeaWorld went out of business tomorrow, this could still keep going exactly as it is, because they give SeaWorld the money for the licensing fee, they pay their people. And I will say that having spoken with people who are working either directly for SeaWorld or who are working for one of their subcontractors, they a lot of the biggest names in the theme park design business, PGAV, HoloViz, Thinkwell, people who have built for Disney and Universal are the people who built this too, and they had nothing but great things to say about how well they were treated. They genuinely wanted to know what's the best we can do, and let's just do it.
Nice.
And the last thing that I really wanted to touch on that I forgot, talking about all this from an entertainment, a tourism point of view, but what this is really about is survival of species that might not have anywhere to go in the wild in just a few years. The SeaWorld theme park is only one part of the building. The building also contains the Yas Island Marine Research Center and Rescue Center, which is SeaWorld's new worldwide global. We hear all the time about some animal being rescued and taken to SeaWorld Orlando or SeaWorld San Diego. The ones that no one else can help, this is going to be the ultimate facility, like where they take the hardest cases, or they take, and they have biosealed the building. So the everything that's on the research and rescue side there's like not a molecule, not a virus can transfer between the two, but it is also all completely transparent. There's a glass wall built between. So any guest at any time can go in and look into the tanks, look into the surgery wing, look into the rehabilitation rooms. You can watch them do CT scans and x-rays. You can watch them in the kitchen making all of the food.
Wow.
It's radical transparency that their rescue facility was built so that every single place where an animal could be, there's no shutters, there's no curtains. They were telling us about a time they have a similar much smaller facility at Busch Gardens in Tampa, where you can look in and see them doing things. And if you've ever been to Disney's Animal Kingdom, at where you take the train out and you can see little windows, and so imagine that, but the size of a hospital.
Wow.
And they said, we decided no curtains, no shutters, no way to usher the guests out, because we once had happen in Busch Gardens where there was a breech birth. And it was getting messy. There was a lot of blood. And we said, well, we want to shield the guests from this. So we bring down a curtain, but the curtain doesn't go all the way to the bottom. It can't completely seal. So now all these horrified guests are seeing is blood splashing on the floor. And said that was worse than them being able to see everything. They say, it's nature. It's what happens. We're going to let people see so they don't think that we're hiding anything. And I really feel like they took to heart all the lessons from, hard lessons from Blackfish, from all the animal rights groups, and are kind of like, we're going to kind of call your bluff. It's like, we are going to do everything that we could possibly do, short of not existing, short of just quitting and walking away.
Right.
This is everything you could possibly ask for. I feel like they've done.
Nice.
So I almost get a little emotional talking, because some of this stuff is not going to exist anywhere else. I'm looking at the walruses who are in the Arctic area, and how they've set the lighting, and they've got UV and UA, so that's the exact lighting that they would have back home. It's the exact temperature they would have back home. It's the exact food they would have back home. They've got all this space, and I'm just thinking, you know, I I, I feel about for all their cousins who this is all that's going to be left in 20 years, maybe
Mm.
that we won't be able to say, oh well, it's not as good as them being in the wild, because there won't be a wild for them to be in.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that it is. We can have a debate about the fact that this could only be built because it came from money that came from the thing that's destroying the habitat that it gives. So it's like this huge vicious circle. But if we can't stop the circle, then I mean, maybe the next best thing we can do is to try to preserve a little piece of it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but it really is. It's like being in a science fiction movie. Like you read books about, like, aliens trying to preserve a piece of the planet
Mhm.
after the apocalypse or whatever. We're putting humanity in a bottle and
Right.
that's that. I feel like that's what this is for marine life. And it makes me kind of terrified, but also kind of hopeful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I heard you can even get a suntan in that one.
you can, yeah, they've got the UV cranking.
Indoors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
So I actually think that we have a new feature that has been added since I was here last, which is that we take a look at some of the comments. And I know some comments have popped in while we were talking. And Brian Sager, he is obsessed with this new park. I'm right with you. This was low on my radar. I did not think there's something I was ever going to do. And now I'm kind of becoming an evangelist. I was walking around the Fringe Festival the last few days, and I'm wearing my SeaWorld Abu Dhabi hat, as one does, right?
Right.
And every person who asks about it, I kind of like become an evangelist. I'm like, you can do this. You can, like, I would recommend having a travel agent, because I think that it would be it's always helpful if you're in a totally different part of the world. But I will say
MEI, Mouse Fan Travel.
absolutely, MEI Mouse Fan Travel.
They can help you.
They will absolutely help you. I've done the Disneyland Paris trip, and I found all of that much more intimidating and confusing as an American. Even though and still great public transportation there and stuff, and it's not that hard, but this was so much more seamless. Everything was just seamless. Thank you, Brian, for doing that deep dive and watching all of our videos. And they're not all up. I'm
Yeah,
sure
they're not
there's
up yet.
still
Yeah,
more to
got
come.
more to come.
But you basically got it right. Tokyo Disney treatment for customer service, 100%. Something else that makes it very much like Tokyo Disney is SEA. If you're a fan of Tokyo Disney, you know
Saw
about the
that.
Society of Explorers and Adventurers. SeaWorld also has their own SEA, or C, that they have also copyrighted. Theirs version stands for Scientists, Explorers, and Adventurers, or Science. I don't know, but they've gamified the entire park. This is sort of maybe kind of like the Star Wars data pad that they have at Galaxy's Edge, but it takes place across the entire park. You get a free RFID card from one of these kiosks, and you kind of it's like a role-playing game where you create your own character. You like answer certain questions about your personality, and it puts you on a team, and you have different stats and points, and it gives you quests. And it tells you, go to this realm, and some of the quests are finding hidden objects and tapping your card next to them, and it makes them light up. Some of it is going to like a computer or some interactive thing and playing a game and getting points for that. And if you accumulate a certain number of points, it unlocks bigger, higher and higher levels, to the point where, like, if you go into the Rocky Point area where all the sea lions are, there's a giant a life-size lighthouse, and if you've solved enough games, you can go up and activate the lighthouse and turn
That's
it
cool.
on.
Yeah.
So it's things similar to Meow Wolf in Las Vegas does a similar thing with an RFID card, but it all ties into science and ecology and learning about the animals, and makes it into a game that you can come back multiple times, and it tracks your progress over time. It's really sophisticated, a lot more to it than the kind of gamification that Disney has done. I'd say it's even more layers than the power-up bands at Super Nintendo. Something I barely had the time to scratch. Anyway, other comments, Brian. Endless Ocean is bonkers. There were points where we were walking through tunnels into the middle of it, and you just look in every direction, and you just feel like you're in the middle of the ocean. It is the closest thing I've ever done to scuba diving while staying dry. And John is saying, my primary vocation loses me privileges, but my friends who have been loved it. Oh, I gotcha. Yes, John is a Christian pastor, and I will say that as we had one of our lead PR people were with, it was a devout Christian who wore a cross and had absolutely no problem. She lives there, and going to the Grand Mosque, there are signs in English, in Arabic, in every language on earth, saying tolerance, saying interfaith, saying coexistence. They were so welcoming, and I never felt any kind of religious proselytization. The only thing that identifies things as Muslim is you can't get real bacon. Everything was made with turkey bacon, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a big bacon either. But there was no. There really I would say I've gone to religious places. Like I said, the Vatican. I've gone to big churches, big synagogues all over the world, and I've always felt like there was a lot more telling me about the religion at all of those places. Going to the mosque was simply about kind of being in awe of the architecture and the art, and it felt like a cultural experience, but I didn't feel like I was being asked anything religiously. So I just felt very comfortable, very welcomed. And we talk a lot lately, maybe not so much on this podcast, but there's a lot of things politically going on in Florida right now. Depending on what minority you are part of, it can be a very scary time. I know the NAACP put out a statement, warning people that, maybe not safe to come to Florida right now because things are going on. I never felt unsafe. There are times when I do feel unsafe in my own town right now, to be perfectly honest. Never felt unsafe for a minute in Dubai or Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, and Theron said the same thing. And then if you want to hear more from Theron and Seth, they're going to do a dedicated podcast at some point.
We'll do a deep dive, and
it'll be a long one.
We'll talk about. I want to talk about Warner Brother World. They are adding a Harry Potter expansion, and they've promised to bring us back for that, because I think that's based on what they've already done. That's going to be something special.
Yep.
All right. Well, like I mentioned at the top, I have had about 4 hours of sleep, and I have less than an hour to get to my next Fringe show, because it is the last day of the Fringe. I'm gonna keep going till midnight.
All right, let's wrap it up.
So let's wrap this thing up. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Before we go, we want to thank once again our sponsors, MEI and MEI-Travel. And we want to remind everyone, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a rating on Spotify. Be sure to follow us on socials at Attractions Magazine, and all our YouTube, Instagram. Just look up Attractions on all of them.
You'll find us. You
can find me at theunofficialguides.com. And believe it or not, I have a new book I have to finish writing this week too. Yay! But until next week, we hope that you folks stay safe, try something new, and most importantly, have fun. And we will see you all next